The Los Angeles Chargers not only covered as underdogs, but beat the Ravens outright on Sunday. Getty Images, with high-flying offenses covering big point spreads seemingly with ease, wagering on NFL favorites had the potential to be a profitable venture during the regular season. Come playoff time, however, underdogs are more than having their day. Overall, that's bad news for the general population of the football wagering world, the casual bettor who favors backing the favorites. How bad? The recent postseason scorecard has been rather solid for the house, a trend that continued on a wild card weekend that certainly ended as wild as you could imagine. When the visiting Philadelphia Eagles upset the Bears in Chicago on Sunday evening as 61.5 point underdogs, it continued an incredibly futile recent run for playoff faves over the past 12 months. Not only did it make the Dogs an unblemished 4-0 this past weekend, but dating back to last year's postseason, including the Eagles' win over the Patriots in the Super Bowl, the underdogs are now 14-1 versus the spread. In fact, underdogs have now cashed 10 in a row in the NFL postseason, which is believed to be a record in the Super Bowl era. Easy money, you say? Not quite. But it certainly speaks to the excitement of the NFL postseason, where live underdogs are on an unprecedented and profitable run of success. On Saturday and Sunday, anyway, 3 of the 4 games had closing lines of a field goal or less, and a case could be made for each of the 8 teams. The Bears were the most heavily favored, but there was a sense that just shy of a touchdown was a boatload of points given that they were bidding to knock off the reigning champs with a young quarterback and a dodgy kicking game. Trends are real and not to be ignored, and analytics are huge in any sport right now. But underdogs hitting at 14-1. How long can that be sustained? We'll see how it all plays out, but one trend that might best be approached with caution is on scoring totals. The unders went 3-1, and very nearly 4-0 if it were not, in part, for the injury to Seahawks kicker Sebastian Janikowski at the end of the first half on Saturday night. With Janikowski out, the Seahawks were essentially forced into a 2-point conversion late to make the score 24-22 for the Cowboys and over the total of 43, not in the mix on Wild Card weekend, however, were the NFL's 3 top offenses, the Rams, Chiefs and Saints. On to next week's divisional round, early bettors on the Chiefs-Colts game managed to turn the other cheek on Kansas City's well-documented postseason slump. The bye-week beneficiaries opened as 4-point home favorites, but were bet up to 51 halves shortly after the betting windows opened. Of greater concern for Chiefs backers is the team's recent playoff form, which includes a 1-10 record both on the scoreboard and against the spread over their past 11 appearances. The most recent was one of those underdog specials from a year ago, a 22-21 loss to Tennessee in a wild card game in which the Chiefs were favored by 81 halves, the Patriots were favored by as much as 61 halves points over the visiting Chargers early on, but a flood of money on quarterback Phillip Rivers and the visitors dropped that to 41 halves by Sunday night, which sounds about right. The home field advantage in Foxborough can be seen as a formidable one, but the handicapping struggle with the Patriots, who are almost always favored, is whether they can cover. The Tom Brady-Bill Belichick tandem hair 19-3 straight up in playoff games at Gillette Stadium, but a much more modest 1 September 12 versus the spread. As VegasInsider.com notes, however, of those 8 wins, 5 have come by double digits. Over in the NFC, the Eagles will barely have time to catch their breath before preparing to meet the consensus Super Bowl betting favorite in New Orleans. Drew Brees and the Saints opened as the prohibitive 91 halves point choice, though later Sunday that line had dipped to 81 halves at some betting outlets. How about them Cowboys? Their win over the Seahawks wasn't really in doubt, but that 24-22 final was all over the map in terms of how it was graded by gamblers. The consensus closing line was Dallas by 21 halves, which made for a sneaky Seattle cover, but for much of the week, the line was at 2, which made for a push. Next up for Dallas is a trip to Los Angeles to face the Rams, who with their high-flying offense are favored by 7. Sportsbooks far and wide, from the classic spots in Vegas to those available on the internet, were huge fans of the Eagles in the wild card weekend finale. And in this case, the bookies weren't merely looking for a cover, either. Once the Bears' defense began showing signs of domination earlier in the season, wise guy bettors loaded up on the Bears with Super Bowl future bets, and then there were 8. Led by the Saints at 9 quarters, here are the updated odds to win the Super Bowl: Chiefs and Rams at 9 halves, Patriots 5-1, Chargers 8-1, Cowboys and Colts 14-1, Eagles 16-1.